Wasser im Mörderpump, Mann. Geiler Stretch, super Spannung oben, geniale Maschine, genialer Trainingspartner.
With either dips or a down pullover, but the chest is very fatigued right now, so we're just going to do dips with body weight until failure every time, because it's already pretty much dead right now.
Roadtoglory by Gym, Bodybuilding and more.
Sportfreunde, seid mir gegrüßt zu einem neuen Video. Zu meiner Rechten oder für euch gesehen zur Linken habe ich den epischen Wesley Vissers sitzen. Wer ihn noch nicht kennt, der hat wirklich was verpennt. 7 Wochen out, dann geht es zu Mr Olympia. Hat dieses Jahr seine Pro-Card geholt, ist erst 25 Jahre alt und ich habe euch bei Instagram gefragt, deswegen lohnt es sich auch, das blenden wir an der Stelle mal ein, uns auch auf Instagram zu folgen, damit ihr künftig es selbst in der Hand habt. Wenn es so zum Beispiel wieder heißt Q&A, ihr stellt Fragen, Wesley in dem Falle antwortet. So.
Well, we actually did it at the beginning. It was the bench press. Yeah. It was Arnold's favorite as well. Just the basic barbell exercise for the chest that grows the best if you have the correct form of force.
Sure. Yeah. Und wie die vernünftige Form aussieht, solltet ihr hier mal abchecken. Wir haben nämlich ein eigenständiges Video zusammen gemacht. Es war mir eine Ehre, mit ihm trainieren zu dürfen. 90 knallharte Minuten Brust, Trizeps Workout. Ich wiederhole mich, wer es nicht kennt, er hat was verpennt.
Well, when you're natural, a lot of people think there's a lot of difference whether you're natural or not. But studies have shown that actually frequency is more important than the volume in the training itself. So you can train every single muscle group twice within 8 or 9 days if you want, but then the intensity of the workout itself shouldn't be too high, because otherwise you can't recover enough. Sure. But they did a study where the intensity versus the frequency, where frequency was more important than intensity. So natural athletes can definitely train legs twice if they keep the volume a little lower.
Ja, zweimal die Woche ist das Optimum, wenn ihr entsprechend nicht euch überheizt. Ansonsten kommt ihr mit der Regeneration natürlich nicht hinterher.
Well, in my opinion, it depends what your weak points are. For example, I like to focus a little bit more on legs compared to the rest of my body. Because if you want to be a proportionate bodybuilder and you train everything the exact same frequency, your weak points will never catch up to the strong points. So for example, if you train chest and triceps, back and biceps and legs, and your legs are a weaker point, you got to make sure that you train your legs compared to the other muscle groups more frequent. So in my opinion, from the very start I did just a split of the back, the chest and the legs that I just said. So that has worked for me always, and then you can really choose which muscle group to do if it's a weak point. Well, usually indeed the sweetness is what you want in a diet when you're caloric deficit. So what I first recommend is usually once or twice a day I like to have a meal with a whey supplement in it, and the taste and the flavor of that is very important. If you get bored of that, you don't really feel like you have a dessert or a treat for yourself. So you got to make sure that, for example, the breakfast with oatmeal, you combine it with a whey supplement, but it has to be sweet enough. And if it's not sweet enough, then you can add a good sweetener. And a lot of sweeteners have bad names, but there's one called saccharose, which looks a lot like sugar but doesn't have the calories of sugar, which is one of the safest sweeteners to use. And next to that you can also use just water with a sweetener in it with a fruity taste, for example. And you can use it as well if it's 0 calories. I've done it my entire prep and I've never experienced a problem. So that way I can keep at bay the sweets and still enjoy my diet.
Started hanging with a new.
Let me answer about David first, because I used to follow him for years actually, when he was still at Universal and Animal, and when he trained with Antoine Vaillant. I followed him since 2013, and that's when I saw David as well. And I've always appreciated his shape, always thought he was a very good classic bodybuilder, but he never, in my opinion, could do well on the open because that's simply too big. I had the same problem, and I think he's a bodybuilder that wants to stay classic. So I really appreciated that about him, because that was a lot of years ago, and it's not like he's gotten very much bigger, but he got better in terms of quality of muscle. So that's what I appreciate about him, and I really do want to stand next to him on stage, because I do think he has also a good old school physique. So I really want to see the comparison between us two. And how I will do at the Olympia, well, of course you should never do a show if you don't believe that you can win. And right now I've done 2 shows of Classic Physique, and every time I became the first with my current shape. So that means that the judges like what I have to offer on stage. So up until now I've never had any judge say that I don't belong in that Classic Physique class. So if I do the Mr Olympia and stand next to the top of the world, I really do want, I think I will end up very highly. So and if you don't think that, you shouldn't even be doing the competition in the first place. But yeah, I do think I will place pretty high, and I just want to stand next to the very top guys for sure. Sleep is very important for recovery, because a lot of people train as hard as they can and I think that's the way to grow, but you actually grow when you rest, so when you sleep. And you can't say, well, I take a rest day, but during the day you don't recover as much as during the night. So I like to sleep at least 8 hours a night. It should be 9 or 10 hours for a bodybuilder, because you're a much bigger person, you have a much bigger physique, and they say that 8 hours for the average person should be enough to recover fully. So I at least try to sleep for 8 hours, but I like to sleep for 9 or 10 if possible. But sometimes you get quite busy with the schedule, but if you want to be the best bodybuilder, sleep as much as you can. I think Classic Physique and Classic Bodybuilding is pretty much the same workout style, because there used to be only Classic Bodybuilding in Europe before Classic Physique, and I wanted to join that class, but you cannot weigh as much in terms of how many kilograms you can weigh. But in terms of shape, it's pretty much the same. So I do think the training should be focused on a V shape, a full upper body, and more of a Y shape, so without the legs being like tree trunks. That's today, it's an X shape, which is the open bodybuilding class, and you want to have a Y shape, so a flow downwards. My drive, well, ever since 2013 when I started competing, when I won my first show, that's when I realized, oh wow, I might actually have some talent for bodybuilding. So when winning your first show, it's a lucky thing and an unlucky thing, because then you're used to being the best right away. So you have a really high pressure on yourself to compete at a very high level, because if you get second, it already is a disappointment. So you gotta be at your best every single time. And when I watched Pumping Iron, when I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, how he trained, how he looked, that's when I realized that's the physique that I really want. And people started to compare me to Arnold without me initiating it. So I never even said that I looked like him, but people themselves told me that I looked like him in terms of posing, in terms of structure. Of course, we don't have the same physique at all, but we do have the same posing style and the same presentation on stage. So that's when I tried to pursue that, and the more I did that, the more success came out of it. So definitely that was the drive to really get to where I am now, and getting a pro card is the only way to get to the Olympia, which is where Arnold got all of his fame from.
Did you already met him, Arnold?
Not yet.
But in September?
Maybe September, or next year in March during the Arnold Classic, where he will be for sure. So it's going to be only less than a year before I meet him, that's for sure.
That's one of your dreams?
Yeah, that's one of my dreams for sure, yeah.
Nice one.
Right now?
Yes.
For 2 days it's 5,200 calories to eat, which is quite high for most people.
Yes.
And the only way to achieve that is to really be consistent. If I'm coming out of a show, which I had on July 6th, which means that your body is in a rebound state, it takes up every single calorie and tries to turn it into muscle, but if you eat too much, it turns into fat. So right then your metabolism is increased. But if you go too high, your body realizes, oh, it's too much, so it stores that fat. But if you stay right at that level, you can keep your metabolism high, increase in muscle mass, and keep your metabolism from rising. And if it keeps that much, you can actually increase the carbs by quite a lot, which is 600 right now. So I have 2 days of 5,200 calories, and 1 day around 4,000 to keep the carb cycling and the fat burning up as well.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you, man.
No
It was a
problem.
pleasure. Danke an euch fürs Zuschauen. Einen Daumen hoch, wenn ihr mehr solcher Videos wollt. Checkt bitte auch die Videobeschreibung. Ich verlinke natürlich den Instagram-Account und den YouTube-Account von Wesley. Wollt ihr eine Prognose? Nach Mr Olympia wird er wirklich den Riesendurchbruch haben. Nicht, dass er ihn jetzt nicht schon hätte. Über 200.000 auf YouTube. How many do you have on Instagram? More than 100,000 meanwhile?
Yeah, 107,000.
And I start to follow you when you have 10 or 15,000.
Oh, really?
Yes, I know
Thanks.
you. And my opinion was at the beginning that you are famous in 1 or 2 years.
Oh,
so,
thanks.
and I think after Olympia that was your boom.
Yeah,
You will explode
I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, I think so. So, ich möchte mich bedanken bei Ferdi und bei Olaf. Die beiden haben schließlich das Ganze hier eingeleitet, dass ich überhaupt diese Möglichkeit besitze, so ein Interview und auch mit Wesley trainieren zu dürfen. Ich möchte mich bei euch bedanken, denn ohne diese Reichweite wäre das natürlich auch nicht möglich. Also herzlichen Dank alle die uns supporten. Wer uns supporten möchte, wer solche Videoprojekte begleiten möchte, der bestellt seine Supplements als Beispiel und seine Klamotten über den Code RTG10. Ich blende gerne die Special Deals aktuell ein. Bedanke mich im Voraus für euren Support, bedanke fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Haust da rein.